Hi there, I'm Margie Holmes, clinical psychologist, author, and educator. First, I'd like to thank you all for your enthusiastic responses to our past 2 episodes. Some of the comments I got from Twitter have been very encouraging. For example, Joss Inocencio, I just watched your episode on infidelity. It's very sensible, interesting, and thought-provoking. Thank you, Josh. Then from Begs PH, I love the yellow blazer. I can follow you online regardless of where I am. Thank you for being so generous, Banks. I mean, some other people complained about my big ring and dangling earrings, and therefore, look. Okay? And from Francis Bea, think of Dr. Margie Holmes as that tita you wish you always had. My only question, Francis, is bakit namang tita? Bakit hindi cousin or even younger sister? Joke only, of course. Anyway, after talking about virginity and infidelity, we're now moving on to something that's not always easy to do, which is coming out to your parents about a secret that you know will upset them. Due to the nature of today's episode, some of the people asked to not reveal their real names. We have some lengthy questions, some of which were sent to our email, askmargie@rappler.com. And because there were so many questions you had on coming out, especially regarding LGBT issues, we hope you don't mind if we focus or dedicate one show only on LGBT questions, because there were so many of them, and each with a different issue and a different angle. For now, though, we will concentrate on non-LGBT secrets, okay? For example, the first one from @Makimak, what will you do if you are sexually attracted with one of your relatives? Matt Makimak, talagang mahirap yan. I think you should ask yourself a couple of questions. One is, of course, the issue in terms of legal issues and maybe how upset your parents or other people will be, is how close you are. I mean, if you're first cousins, I can imagine that would be pretty upsetting to people. Not that you should do anything about it just because it's upsetting to other people, but I think that's something to think about. And the other is he the only person that you love, or is she the only person that you love? O crush lang ba ito so that pwede kang makipag-crush sa ibang tao? Kasi, I mean, I'm for making life simple if you can, without compromising your beliefs, etc. So, kung okay lang, kasi naman maraming mga lalaki dyan sa mundo o maraming mga babae dyan sa mundo, I mean, if you can manage that, why not? I mean, why complicate your life if you can find a way not to? However, kung talaga mong mahal itong lalaki or itong babaeng ito, then that's another issue. And maybe we can talk about that some more on some other show, okay? And next, it's from Chinita @Runner. She asks, how will I tell my parents that my boyfriend and I are planning to get married next year? I'm afraid that my mother will be upset because I'm the breadwinner. Well, one of the first things I think you should do is to clarify with your fiancé so that he knows that while you will contribute most of your salary to your marriage, I mean, if that's what you intend to do, that you will still want to continue to help your parents. I think after that is fairly clear, then maybe when and if you tell your parents that you are going to be married, you can also reassure them that you have talked to your fiancé about this so that they know that we will still be able to help them. However, I think you should also share with them what guidelines you have to how much you can give, because your parents may be too shy to ask you that. I'm sure they realize, or they're frightened that you might give them less, especially if you have kids, etc. So it might be good to also reassure them and let them know how much you feel you can still give. Kasi hindi ba minsan ang problema ay problema because you don't know how much you should be worried. And this way, they will know. Okay? Then, from DA, I am a discreet atheist and neither my parents nor my friends know anything about it. Perhaps the fear of being condemned by my own family scares me. Being part of a devout Catholic family makes it even harder to come out. I can understand exactly how you feel and my heart goes out to you, especially since this is a problem I don't think many people experience. First of all, many people presume that you just follow what your parents' religion is. And so the fact that you have come from a totally different perspective, which means that not only Have you decided to believe in a different God, Jewish or Muslim rather than Catholic, which most of us are in the Philippines, but you have come to the conclusion that there is no God at all. So parang it's not just quantitatively, in a sense, it's qualitative. No, now you don't believe in a supreme being. And that can be quite upsetting to your parents. So I would suggest that you come out in stages. I mean, maybe you can understand their issues that, since they came from a very Católico cerrado perspective, that it might shock them if you come out all at once. However, and this is so important, even if you will try to understand their issues, it is also important that they should try and understand yours. Because there are some parents who think that ikaw lang ang mag-intindi, ikaw lang ang makinig. No, because they're older, they know better, experience is the best teacher, etc., etc. But I know that you, and most of the people who have tweeted us and emailed us, I know that you are responsible human beings who take your life seriously, as you should. And therefore, I think, it is good to make clear that I'm trying to understand you, but I'm a grown-up too, and I have my own beliefs and my own issues. So I hope magrespetuhan na lang tayo, di ba? That you also understand mine. Okay? Next tweet. SMS, I am very much addicted to pornography, both videos and photos, and my dad made disown me for this since my uncles are priests and I had dreams of being one myself. The first question I asked is, why tell your dad? And be very careful that he doesn't find out. I mean, that's a semi-joke because, being able to, the more you tell your parents, the more intimate you can become with them, no? So if you want, before you tell them, I think you have to be very clear what your definition of pornography is. Because sometimes, especially if one comes from a very conservative family, your definition of pornography may not be, in quotes, real pornography. It might be a girl in a, string bikini or what do you call those, those thongs or whatever you call them. And, it may not be pornography to other people. So this is important. Is it when you have, sort of super sexy or whatever, impure thoughts? This is what we learned. If anything you see gives you impure thoughts, then that's not good. So define what pornography is to you. That's number one. Because if what pornography is to you, it is not necessarily what your parents think pornography is, then, there's an issue there, right? I mean, why should you follow their definition of pornography immediately? And thirdly, if it really bothers you, because yes, there is such a thing as internet pornography addiction, if it really bothers you, please email me because there are ways to deal with this, okay? Then we have Chris. I want to ask your advice on how I can reveal a secret to my parents, especially to my mom. I am 29 years old, a Filipina, and currently residing in Singapore. I have an Indian boyfriend, and I know both my family and his would not approve of our relationship. He's asking me to convert to Islam so we can get married. Can you please advise me on how I can tell my parents about my boyfriend? I also hope you can give me some advice about the conversion issue. I'm happy with him, but I don't think I can convert. First of all, these are wonderful questions and napakalalim, and there are multiple issues here. So I hope you don't mind, Chris, if we just focus on a few of them, because even though people are not compartmentalized, even though all these issues have something to do with you as a complete human being, I mean, our time constraints will not make that possible, okay? So I think the first thing that you can share with him are things you are very certain of, like, I really love you very much, but I cannot convert to being a Muslim. It just isn't part of me. Can you accept that? Because after all, I'm not asking you to convert to Christianity or Catholicism. Now, it is important for you to have these things on the table because even though it's your parents you're more concerned about, I guess they will want to know how much he is willing to give up because in their minds and in yours, you are willing to give up so much for him. Okay? So find out how much he's willing to give up because this is something else you can share to your parents and this is something else which will perhaps help them to become more reassured. Okay? And please remember that no matter what your parents tell you, their experiences are not necessarily yours. And in the end, you listen to your experiences. You know, when they lived is not necessarily when you lived. And so, the love that they were capable of giving then and the barriers that they were capable of overcoming then are not necessarily the kind of love you have now. Maybe you're willing to give up more, or maybe you're willing to give up less. And the barriers that were erected then are not the barriers that you have now. In fact, I would say you have fewer barriers because of so many things like social media, etc. I dare say even shows like this. Anyway, from Aize, my ex-boyfriend gave me an STD. I have been paying for consultations and treatment. Should I even tell my conservative parents about this? How do I tell them? Do I have? So the first thing is, do you have to tell them at all? You know, and again, the guideline is the more you tell your parents, the more intimate you become with them, which is always good. Judging or presuming that you have parents you want to be intimate with, no? That is always good. But, you know, just take into mind the kind of parents they are, okay? So, do you have to tell them? What have you told them about your life in the past? If to them you are still a very sweet virginal girl, maybe it's good to tell them first that you're no longer a virgin rather than telling them that you have an STD. I mean, you know, just so that they don't faint, you know, or fall off their chairs, you know. And even though it may sound like I'm joking, I really am not. Then, if I may make a suggestion or some advice, some unsolicited advice, I suggest you tell your boyfriend first. I mean, there are issues here. What about the issue of infidelity? What about the issue of maybe helping you to pay for some of the treatments and consultations you've been having? Okay? And, okay, another question from AN. This is a late admission to my mom that I was raped by my ex-husband. The reason why I agreed to be with him as his wife is that he raped me, okay? She will be furious with me for not telling her the truth. I have my reasons. Dala ko pa hanggang ngayon ang galit. Pinaglalabanan ko lang because I choose to be happy. Good for you. Good na napaglalaban mo. And it is good that you are aware na galit ka pa hanggang ngayon. One of the first things I want to ask you is, are you sure that you are angry at your mother or your ex-husband? Are you sure you are not angry at yourself? It is important to know this because if you are angry at yourself, then maybe the way you tell your mother about what happened will not be so harsh. You know, as opposed to if you are angry at your mother because she was the kind of mother you could not tell this to, and you feel that this is one reason why you felt you had to get married to your ex-husband. And perhaps if you can work it out within yourself, even though you tell her straightforwardly that, Mom, in a way it was your fault because if I did not feel you would be so disappointed, I wouldn't have married him, then you know, maybe you can still be straightforward and yet not be, you know, so harsh. Okay? It would be good to remember this when you tell her this issue. And finally, we have an audio question from EG.
Call me EG. I'm 37 years old and settled with 5 kids, working as a researcher. I'm an only child from her first marriage. Now I have a stepdad. My mom resent me so much and blamed me for what happened to her and how she was beaten by my real dad. There are times she would curse and even wish me dead. I have so many things to say to her. She doesn't know that while she was in the office, my stepdad would come and call me to go to their room. He touched my private parts, telling me that he's only checking. I was so afraid. I really wanted to tell her, but I was afraid my stepdad would fabricate stories against me. It started when I was 12 until I was 17 years old. My mom is all praises for him. She says that if it wasn't for my stepdad, we would be nothing. She has no idea her knight in shining armor is the evil villain. Confused ako nung bata pa ako kasi mabait siya sa akin pero minomolest niya ako. When I was older, he almost raped me. But by then, I knew it was wrong. When I was 19, I had sex with my boyfriend then. Out of fear, my stepfather would rape me first.
Thank you for sharing such an intimate part of your life with us, EG. Thank you for trusting me and the show to help you with this issue. As far as I can see, because this is not face-to-face or intensive therapy, the most I can give you is emotional and cognitive support. Let me explain that a little bit. The emotional support perhaps is just to, in quotes, take the place of your mother or to practice with me until you tell your mother what you want to tell her. Because in a way, let's face it, you did not get the kind of mother that you needed. And this is a lack that most people have until either they talk themselves out of it, or better, they have someone with whom they can work out and resolve these issues. At the risk of sounding mayabang, I would like to be able to help you with this issue. And we have emailed each other several times, and we can continue to do so if you like. The other is that I can give you cognitive support. And one of the most important things you should think of is, how important is it that you actually tell your mother, okay? Because if you tell her, it is possible that she hasn't changed, okay? It is possible, even though 20 years have passed, that she still, for her own needs, not because of yours, because this is the way she has lived all her life, right? That her needs were more important than yours. So it is possible that despite the fact that so many years have passed, she will still choose to believe her husband, your stepdad, rather than you. So kaya mo ba ito? But you know, the first thing I learned when I was training to give support to women and men who have been sexually abused by their parents or by the people whom they considered parents, the first thing I learned is to support whatever decision they have made. If they want to take him to court, fine. If they want to take him and just tell him directly, fine. If they choose to keep it to themselves, fine. And one of the reasons is because when you were young, you had no control over your life. So now that you're older, one of the things that you have is you do have control of your life. So it is up to you to decide not only how far you want to go, but in what direction you want to. And I promise you, I will support you, in any way I can. And you do have my email address, and just you, not other people, because it's hard to email. I will answer anytime you want me to, as I've been doing, right? Okay, now, our topic for next week is orgasm. So any question you have on orgasms, please tweet or email us or Facebook us, okay? Now, for a future show, and the reason we are doing this is because sometimes your questions come and it's not really too late because we love your questions, but it's too late for your aging clinical psychologist who wants at least to think about my answers before I give them to you, okay? So we have this future show which is a little bit difficult, and the topic is, what are your questions about how to say no? Of course, the questions might deal with sex, like how do you say no to your boyfriend if he refuses to use a condom? Sino ba siya, no? And now, of course, if you are sure he doesn't need to use a condom, that's a different issue. But what if you just met him? Or what if you don't know his sexual history and you know that he's been unfaithful a few times, okay? I will not ask, why are you with him still? I won't ask that, okay? But, that might be a question. How do I say no to him? No, I will not make love to you unless you use a condom. Or another sexual question might be, what if I don't want to have oral sex? How do I tell her? Okay? But I do not want questions only about sex. And you can ask a question like, my friend has been trying to borrow money from me and I want to say no because I have lent him money in the past and deadma. Okay? So how do you say no to that? Okay? Or how do I say no to someone who wants me to make bola to the person he's courting? He wants me to say that he is very faithful and he's a one-woman man, etc., when you know for sure that he isn't. Okay, so any questions about those things, along those lines, please tweet us. So you have two, right? Questions that you tweet us about. And finally, the other thing I would like you to do, sana, is to answer a question. I have a question naman, no? Which is, how big do you think big enough is? Give me numbers. I'd like to know that. Okay? So, before we end the show, I would just like to say about secrets from your parents is that self-disclosure is like a dance, and sharing a secret with your parents is part of self-disclosure, right? Because you're telling them something about yourself. So as I say, it's like a dance, like especially with friends. Don't you notice? You disclose something a little personal about yourself, and then this person discloses something equally personal or even more personal, and then you do, and that's the way you become closer. Share, 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 share. So if you self-disclose to someone and he still wants to talk about the show on TV or what he ate that day, you don't self-disclose anymore because hindi niya inalagaan yung sinabi mo. So why should you open up more to him? And besides, he may not want you to. Baka hindi niya carry yun. Okay? So self-disclosure is such, but with your parents, maybe you don't want equal self-disclosure. I mean, you don't want to know if your dad had STD 5 or 8 years ago, right? So, but remember that the more you can share, the more you can become intimate, the more your parents will know about the real you. However, you also have to remember that baka hindi nila carry. So why do you, as it says in the Bible, throw your pearls to swine? No, because what you know about yourself is very, very important too. Okay? So, thank you so much for joining me in today's private session. Send me your questions on Facebook, tweet using the hashtag AskMargie, or send me an email to askmargie@rappler.com. We also encourage you to video your questions. Be bold. Send us a link to your question over video. Okay, see you next week.